So the Cowboys, to use the poker reference, they pulled an inside straight and somehow won the division last year because the Eagles imploded. Best roster in football, 10-1, and then it blew up in their faces down the stretch, allowing the Cowboys to steal the division crown. Here's Nick Sirianni from earlier in the week on the things he's doing to improve himself as a head coach.
The moment we stop growing and trying to grow in our profession and grow as, people, as players, as coaches, is the moment you might as well not be doing it anymore. So constantly trying to evolve everything that we do. You go through adversity and you think about what can I do better in adversity. You go through hard time or good times and you think about what could I do better. So everything's always in a constant evaluation of yourself. That's accountability, right? If you want everyone around you to have accountability and you want yourself to have accountability, then you fussing at the refs is not. It's almost like, hey, this happened, so I'm going to blame that, right? And so when I heard that, when I read that, I was like, yeah, that hit me like some sort of way. We're always in a work in progress. I'll be a work in progress until I'm done coaching, until I die. I feel like, just because that's just what I've always been taught, and you're always striving to get better at everything that you do.
Interesting comments from Nick Sirianni, who's admitting to a level of emotion and combativeness and volume on the sideline. To get back to our conversation from earlier, he's yelling at the customer service rep instead of, focusing on the task at hand. And at one point in the offseason, Derek Gunn, who's covered the Eagles forever, said that the biggest detriment to the absence of Big Dom, who got suspended from the sidelines for the rest of the year after he laid hands on Dre Greenlaw during that 49ers-Eagles game that started the slide. I guess Big Dom is the guy that kind of kept the coach under control. And without Big Dom there, he didn't have his emotional support security chief to keep him from, getting a little off kilter. But there's a parallel here to Micah Parsons as well, because this is year 4 for Nick Sirianni as coach. This is year 4 for Micah Parsons. You got to constantly be looking for ways to make yourself better. And Sirianni has had a tremendous amount of success early in his career, and it's worked by him being the way that he is. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't be looking for ways to be better, because maybe if he addressed some of the areas where he can get better, the team's results will be even better.
Yeah, and I think that it's good to have that kind of self-reflection as a head coach. You need it. I mean, what he said about fussing at the refs, I think makes a lot of sense. And look, we know that Nick Sirianni is the kind of person that wears his emotions on his sleeve, right? I mean, I don't think any of us are ever going to forget him crying during the national anthem for the Super Bowl. But at the same time, there's a way to filter your emotions so that they are the most productive. And when you are discussing, let's call it, things with referees, instead of focusing on, okay, what is it exactly that we did, or what is it that we didn't do in order to be successful in this situation, then that probably is not the most productive use of what your emotion can be. So yeah, I think that is good as a head coach to think about that and think about things that way, especially because, look, he's not the offensive play caller, right? So he is that person that has to be in tune with all the different things that are going on in game management, right? Which you have to be anyway as a head coach, but it's to an even greater extent when you're not calling plays, because you have to set that tone. So I think what he said there is good. We'll see if that actually happens, because sometimes when people, talk about goals, it's like, what, Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until you punch in the face. So let's see what happens when, things actually start and the lights are actually on. But I think that is a good goal for Sirianni to have going into his 4th season, thinking about things a little bit differently, trying something a little bit differently, especially after that collapse we saw last year.
There was a hashtag long read from ESPN.com a few weeks ago about the Nick Sirianni-Jalen Hurts relationship, the dysfunction behind the scenes. Everybody wants to diagnose exactly why things fell apart. I think there's more to it that we won't know, maybe for years, maybe until someone writes a biography of Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni or Big Dom, who knows. But who do you think's under more pressure this year? Hurts as the quarterback or Sirianni as the head coach?
I mean, I think it's definitely Sirianni. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is under pressure in some ways. I mean, after the way that he played down the stretch, which wasn't quite good, but they got rid of the offensive coordinator, right? They bring in Kellen Moore, and we'll see what he can do with that offense. But they're not going to get rid of Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts isn't very good this year, they're going to get rid of Nick Sirianni. And I think that if the Eagles don't get off to a good start, it's going to get real loud in Philadelphia real quick. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
No, I think that Sirianni is under more pressure because he's the guy who's more easily replaced, and he's probably the guy that the owner has already gone through the mental gymnastics of replacing. Now, the Jalen Hurts contract was very tradable after 1 year. And, of course, I dared to point that out at PFT, and Eagles fans lost their minds about it, which is fine. I'm used to it. I'm used to getting that reaction from fan bases who hear something they might not want to hear, but I didn't know as that season ended, is Jalen Hurts going to say, I want out of here, it's me or him? Is the team going to decide we need to move on from Jalen Hurts? We can trade this contract fairly easily without a massive cap hit. There wasn't a big signing bonus. There's guaranteed money, but you just send it to someone else. So I think that as it stands, Sirianni 1 and Hurts 2. And Hurts should want Sirianni to stay because new head coach might look at that contract and say, I could trade this. I could move on from Jalen Hurts. There's issues with Jalen Hurts. There's concerns I have with Jalen Hurts. I got another guy that I would rather play quarterback, and we've seen that happen before. So Hurts should want Sirianni to stay because new boss might decide I'm moving on from Jalen Hurts. But I think Sirianni's under more pressure because I think that, I mean, it's ludicrous if we would assume, based upon that video that we have shown numerous times of Jeffrey Lurie in his suite at that embarrassing loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that blend of emotions that created a mask, a unique and unprecedented in human history mask of bewilderment, frustration, and just flat-out rage. Surely he thought about firing Nick Sirianni. There it is. Surely
absolutely.
He thought about hiring Bill Belichick. And just because they didn't issue a statement saying Sirianni's coming back, because I think privately they like to make fun of the Cowboys for issuing a statement that Mike McCarthy wasn't being fired. It's like, Angela, stay tuned for an important announcement about your paychecks. Your paychecks will be issued at the usual time and the usual amount. Functional teams don't have to say our head coach that's gone 12-5 for 3 straight years is coming back. So the Eagles, our guy that took us to the Super Bowl last year, we don't need to say he's coming back. Surely there was discussion, or at least consideration by Jeffrey Lurie about swapping out Nick Sirianni for Bill Belichick.
Well, or any other coach, right? I would certainly think that, and don't call me Shirley. But yeah, I mean, the way that things ended last year, it merited that discussion, and also the choices that Sirianni made during the season and before the season. Who are the coordinators going to be and why? Going from Desai to Patricia, that didn't make things any better. Promoting Johnson instead of maybe hiring from outside of the building, that also did not go very well. So yeah, it merited a discussion the way things ended to potentially move on from Sirianni. They didn't, but again, if things don't go well, if the Eagles start 1-4, Mike, I mean, do you think that thing's going to be, how loud is that going to be? That's going to be really, really loud coming from Philadelphia.
Yeah, and here's the problem. Because of the way they collapsed last year, even if they start off 10-1, you're going to have all those Eagles fans bracing for another collapse, right? You're going to they're never going to be comfortable because even if they are winning and winning and winning and winning through the first side, the left side of the schedule, by the time they get to the right side, the fans are going to be even more concerned.
Okay, you have a chance to win $1 million in the NBC sweepstakes on Yahoo Fantasy. Just download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCSports.com/fantasymillion for additional details. What are you waiting for?
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.